All right. So more bad news, more terrifying news, actually, here. Another student protester abducted. This time we actually see the video not from a first-person account, the way we saw Mahmoud Khalil's account, but this was actually filmed from what looks like the second or third floor of the building from which this student was taken by masked ICE agents. So federal government detains international student at Tufts. An international student in a graduate program at Tufts University was taken into federal custody on Tuesday outside an off-campus apartment building, according to the university's president and an attorney representing the student. The student, Rümeysa Öztürk, a Turkish citizen, had a valid student visa as a doctoral student at Tufts, according to a statement from her lawyer, Masa Kanbabi. Ms. Öztürk, who is Muslim, was heading out to break her Ramadan fast with friends on Tuesday night when she was detained by agents from the Department of Homeland Security near her apartment in Somerville, Massachusetts, Ms. Kanbabi said. A statement attributed to a senior spokesman for Homeland Security claimed on Wednesday that Ms. Öztürk had, quote, engaged in activities in support of Hamas considered grounds for visa issuance to be terminated. Records from Immigrations and Customs Enforcement showed that a person with Ms. Öztürk's name was being held in a Louisiana detention center on Wednesday. They really don't want to try these cases in the Northeast. They want to send them to the Fifth Circuit. They seem really intent on sending these people to the most conservative judicial jurisdiction, in America. I wonder why that is.
Ms. Öztürk screams open and shut case, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Ms. Öztürk was listed as one of several authors of an opinion essay published last March in the Tufts student newspaper. The essay criticized university leaders for their response to demands that Tufts acknowledge the Palestinian genocide and divest itself from companies with ties to Israel.
Oh, my God.
We'll read some of that op-ed. It's a pretty lengthy op-ed, actually, but I read the whole thing. We're not going to bore you with the whole thing, but I'll show you a piece of it. Tricia McLaughlin, a spokeswoman for Homeland Security, said that Ms. Öztürk was detained under a rarely used provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which the administration is also using to try to deport Khalil. The measure says that the Secretary of State can initiate deportation proceedings against any non-citizen whose presence in the United States is deemed a threat to the country's foreign policy interests. A video circulating on social media on Wednesday showed a woman in a hijab and white coat being surrounded on a sidewalk, handcuffed, and led away by masked plainclothes officers driving unmarked cars. The Massachusetts Attorney General, Andrea Joy Campbell, said her office was closely monitoring this matter as it developed. So here is some video obtained by Daniel Bogoslav, who's a journalist. I've obtained new footage of the abduction of this Tufts student, which includes audio of her kidnappers. The audio is a little hard to hear because they're on the second floor, but the visual really says everything. So let's take a look at this. So there they are in plain clothes, masks on.
You guys covering your faces?
Perfect COVIDians.
You want to take those masks off?
It almost looked like the one guy there, the guy in the bottom left, looks up towards the camera. It almost looks like he saw himself being filmed. See? On the left-hand side? Yeah. It almost looked like he saw.
Yeah. No, this isn't
camera.
like Banana Republic shit at all. To have a bunch of guys who don't want to show their face so that they can't be held accountable for what they're doing, grabbing somebody off the street.
I don't see anything.
No
I mean,
badge
I see
numbers, no nothing.
Yeah, the person in like the gold jacket looks like that might be a badge hanging from their coat, but not necessarily. And then this guy in the black who's looking at the camera now doesn't seem to show any credentials at all. Here they are. Keep going.
You want to take those masks off? Is this a kidnapping? Yeah, you don't look like it. Why are you hiding your faces? Why are you hiding your faces? Can I see some faces here? How do I know this is the police? Seems like bullshit to me. Certainly looks like it.
They go to unmarked cars.
Bit of a kidnapping going on here?
This is what Miriam Adelson's money bought her, man. $100 million buys you a lot of personal influence on how your tax money's spent, right? Your tax money's paying for this, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Where's Doge?
Don't say that too loud. The MMT people have a meltdown.
Yeah.
Your tax money's not paying for anything. It's just we're doing it. Our resources are going towards it.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no such thing as tax money. Now, I'm curious.
I hear that. I hear they fund this mostly off a currency they used on the Oregon Trail game.
Yeah. I don't know what's the deal with this red car. Like, is this red car just driving by and they're asking, "Hey, what's going on?" Seems like a bunch of masked men and a couple masked women shoving a woman into the back of a car. Like, they seem to talk to them to explain what's going on. I don't know if that's one of them. That's not clear to me from this, but it is. Imagine driving down the street and seeing this happen. And you know, no markings on any cars, no markings on any of the people. You're just driving down the street and you see 6 people throw someone in the back of a car like that. Now, very nonchalantly driving away. That red car is still not leaving, but they pull away, and that's it. The red car leaves. I guess they figure they've got this under control. And that's a scene from America. Yes, you saw that right. So here's a piece of her op-ed. Op-ed, try again, President Kumar, renewing calls for Tufts to adopt the March 4th TCU Senate resolutions. On March 4th, the Tufts Community Union Senate passed 3 of 4 resolutions demanding that the university acknowledge the Palestinian genocide, apologize for university president Sunil Kumar's statements, disclose its investments, and divest from companies with direct or indirect ties to Israel. These resolutions were the product of meaningful debate by the Senate and represent a sincere effort to hold Israel accountable for clear violations of international law. Credible accusations against Israel include accounts of deliberate starvation and indiscriminate slaughter of Palestinian civilians and plausible genocide. So that is in the Tufts Daily. So you could just search Tufts Daily op-ed along with Ramis's name, and you could read the whole thing. I know you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, we'd have to read the whole thing to prove she said nothing inflammatory, but that would take a while and it would be tedious. So take my word for it or don't. Look it up. I gave you where to look it up. But there's nothing in here that even approaches even what Mahmoud Khalil was, taking part in. And that I still don't think is anywhere near grounds for the kinds of actions that were taken. He has the First Amendment right to say whatever he wants. But this was milder than that, much milder than that, if this is in fact what the piece was over or what the action was over, if that piece was what the action was over, pardon me. And from the sound of this conversation, this back and forth here with Marco Rubio, it does seem that that's really all they had on her. He is once again, just like he was in Mahmoud's case, extremely vague about why this was happening to her. Let's take a look at this exchange.
In Boston was detained.
Come on, play.
In that Sorry, a Turkish student in Boston was detained and handcuffed on the street by plainclothes agents. A year ago, she wrote an opinion piece about the Gaza war. Could you help us understand what the specific action she took led to her visa being revoked?
Yeah,
and what was your State Department's role in that process?
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the...
So not if you, I mean, if you occupy a building, which again, that's to me, First Amendment, right? A peaceful, nonviolent protest, a sit-in, those are, you know, age-old protest tactics, right? But not even if you should occupy a building or if you should break a window. If you take part in a movement where that kind of thing happens. So what he's basically saying is, unless you're a citizen, you cannot protest against Israel without being deported. That's what
he's applying RICO statute logic to a protest movement. Right. The idea is that the entire movement is guilty.
Right. Exactly.
So if you in any way are associated with it, you're as guilty as all of its members of all of its crimes.
Exactly.
It's not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus. We're not going to give you a visa.
So he just said it's not just about op-eds, it's about taking part in a movement that, as you said, they find the movement guilty. That's why Mahmoud Khalil is in the shape he's in now, because he took part in a movement. So what they're saying is, yeah, if you're not a citizen, they will kick you out for protesting against Israel because they have clearly categorized the entire movement, as Russ said, as being guilty. Now, how do they know who's a citizen and who's not, who's on a student visa, who's on a green card? Well, it's been reported first in Salon and then by The Guardian that Remaisa was outed on a site called Canary Mission, which is a Zionist, basically, snitch site where people are encouraged to submit information about pro-Palestine protesters, activists, professionals, etc. So she has a profile on Canary Mission. Now, let me show you how eerie this is, okay? What you could do is, anybody could do this. You can fill out a submission form for individuals. So if there is an individual in your life who's anti-Israel, you could submit their information to this website. And what do you include here as a mandatory required field? Citizenship. So you select citizenship. Now, if you don't know their citizenship, you could check unknown, but you have the option to select U.S. citizen, foreign national, unknown, foreign national, or unknown citizenship. We know that she was outed on this site. And so there is a database online of pro-Palestine activists who have been outed by Zionist maniacs. And if you don't think that the government is using this to track these people down, then I've got a bridge to sell you, because obviously they are. Khalil and Ozturk are two of the highest profile instances of this happening so far. They are not the only instances of this happening so far. And so you have a climate now where not only is the government mobilized against pro-Palestine protesters, but you have the citizenry. Large facets of the population are being encouraged to basically dox out, snitch on pro-Palestine protesters. Yeah. And the fact that there is a citizenship section in those forms makes it super easy for the government to find out who's who and to determine what they can do to anyone who they deem guilty. Rubio said it plain and simple there. He said this isn't just about writing op-eds, which means that's obviously all they had on this person, that she wrote an op-ed, a very, very mild op-ed, as I said before, but that she's taking part in what is essentially an illegitimate movement in their eyes. And so anyone who's not a citizen who is protesting against Israel is a target. And you talk about a chilling effect, because who are some of the most likely people to protest Israel? People who are not citizens, right? People who are here on student visas, people from the Arab world who know up close and personal what a terrorist state Israel is. So that is a chilling effect times two, because you are silencing people who are the most likely to make a meaningful impact in these movements.
Yeah, a couple of points. One, we have seen the declension of first they came for the communists. I said nothing very quickly. First they came for the undocumented.
Yep.
Then it didn't take very long before they started going for people with student visas. And then very quickly they started going after green card holders. There are statutes, and anyone paying attention has been saying this for a very long time as an argument against reauthorizing it, as the Democrats, the supposedly left Democrats, repeatedly do. The Patriot Act has provisions in it where if you're going to stretch them the way they're stretching these provisions,
Yep.
you could feasibly start arresting American citizens for supporting terrorism by the same logic that you're supporting a movement that they deem as a terrorist movement. You think at the rate that this is progressing, that in the next 4 years they won't try that? This is what Miriam Adelson got for her money. This
Right.
is why I don't understand anyone who sees Trump as a strong leader. He is Israel's bitch. She paid $100 million, and that's it, man. They're going to do everything. This is like Israel's wet dream, that you would have a president that would just torch the First Amendment this way within the first 100 days.
Yep.
Just go after people who are legally, lawfully protesting against the state of Israel. Second point I will make is this is why I am speaking to some of my peers in this space. This is why I get everybody gets excited about the honeymoon period, new administration. You got to be better than that. This is why when J.D. Vance goes to Europe and starts talking about the Digital Services Act, and very, very obviously with intent, does not talk about your fellow journalists who have been arrested for reporting on this subject, you don't go out and feed the impression that this administration is pro-free speech. You have a responsibility to actually pay attention to what's not being said and not gas up people about how this administration is fighting for the First Amendment, because now anyone who said that, you kind of look like a fucking fool now, don't you? Don't you? And it was obvious. It was obvious what he was leaving out, but a lot of people didn't want to talk about that. They just wanted to talk about the anti-woke stuff.
Right. And that's I would add a third point to that. If you are surprised by this, then you something was going on. Like you weren't all there, a couple months ago. If this is a surprise, this was the most obvious thing in the world. The most obvious thing in the world. I am not in the least bit surprised. And, I don't just say that to say I told you so. I say that to encourage everyone to learn from having misjudged this so badly and, start taking an oppositional posture towards this administration right now. They should get no credit for anything. Free speech. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? This cancels out it's a joke to talk about this crew in a free speech context. It always was.
They made that very clear from the beginning.
From before they were appointed, from before they were nominated. Look at Kash Patel. There's video of him talking about how we need to wake up and prioritize Israel.
We're not prioritizing Israel enough. Pam Bondi said she's going to work with the FBI to go after student protesters. So at that point, and look, Vance's speech, if you were looking at it objectively, was said much more in what it didn't say than in what it did say. And a lot of people wanted to ignore that.
What happens when we are at war with Iran, which clearly this administration was paid to deliver? Clearly, they were paid to deliver a war with Iran. When you look at how hostile this administration has been to countries around the world since they have taken office, the idea that this is an anti-war presidency is out the window. They already bombed Yemen. Less than 100 days in, they're already bombing Yemen. The stuff they're pulling with South Africa, which we're going to get to later in the show if we have time. If not, we'll do it Sunday. That is a hostile act as well. you know, they are really doing more to drive the rest of the world into the arms of BRICS by being so extremely hostile to the rest of the world in these first 100 days. They're doing everything we expected them to do for who we expected them to do it for, which is Israel.
Right.
This is
Right.
a traitorous administration. It's a treasonous
Right.
president. He's working for another country.
Right. He's not a Manchurian candidate. He's a Yitzhak
Yeah, right, yeah,
candidate.
exactly. Yeah.
He is owned by a foreign power.
Yitzhak Trump.
Yitzakian candidate.
Yeah.
If you look at the totality of what he's doing, much of which we're covering today, the country is being destroyed very quickly. I mean, I don't know how people think this is going to play out like the rest of the world has no agency. You know, people will, the loss of goodwill is going to have enormous consequences for our economy. You're talking about boycotts against the United States. You're talking about people not traveling to the United States. You're talking about the best and the brightest not wanting to come and work in our universities. You're talking about some of them, you're already seeing offers from universities trying to lure people out of the United States to come work in their countries. And a lot of people are going to start to do it. What are you going to be left with by the time all of this is done?
Yeah.
I don't think people really have an idea of what the people who are supportive of this, who think that the United States can just arbitrarily throw its weight around like this and the rest of the world just has to take it. You're gonna find out otherwise, I think. It's a big world out there. What do we represent? 6% of it?
Yep. That's right.
Please clap.